Hello, I'm Alison Hargreaves from guidesforbrides.co.uk, and it's nice this evening to be coming to you with some better news for a change for weddings. First of all, I think everyone will have heard the very good news on the positive direction things are taking with both vaccines and rapid testing. But we're also really pleased with how things went with the Parliamentary Debate this evening. So you may be aware that there was a petition that was circulating during the summer that reached more than 100,000 signatures, which meant it was heard in Westminster Hall as a debate this evening. There were plenty of people there, which was really good news, bearing in mind the fact it was Westminster Hall where there's slightly limited capacity. So first of all, financial support. It was recognised that the wedding industry has been ignored in terms of financial support up until now. It was recognised that the industry has been closed in all but name. The fact that weddings could take place really didn't help most people within the industry. It really didn't help most couples. These weren't the weddings that people were wanting to have, these very small weddings. There was a lot of discussion on venue capacity, and that was very much what the petition was originally focusing on. The idea that it makes a mockery of the rules that restaurants and pubs could open up with unlimited numbers, just restricted by social distancing, but that wedding venues were so restricted. So really good news to hear that huge pressure now being put on ministers to really consider ways that venues can open up dependent on capacity. It was pointed out that weddings would be the ideal place for testing various ways to bring back the events industry in a COVID-safe way. Unlike most other events, weddings have a guest list available in advance. It would be possible to have rapid testing, particularly these, we're hearing now about 20-minute tests. A lot of talk today about tests very accurate in an hour. That would allow, for example, for guests to be tested when they arrive, go into a COVID-safe, socially distant ceremony. And by the time they've come out of that ceremony, they will have their test results and will know whether it's safe for them to mix with others. So there's even the way the day goes would allow really well for that testing to take place. And we are always harping on about the importance of contact tracing afterwards, letting people know if there's been a risk. And we've had that Trusted Trace, our contact tracing software there. It's being used right the way across the events industry already. To have that in place for weddings will make a big difference in that confidence for weddings going forward. And perhaps most importantly, we heard from submissions from lots of venues throughout the evening. So the Ashes, Heaton House Farm, Cultural Hall, Oak Tree at Peover, the Barn at Avington, Presswold Hall, Iscoy Park, lots and lots of our venues were saying that they are really happy to do whatever is needed in order to make this work. So a really important part of this, the venues are wanting to make sure that they can do all they can, and I know all of their suppliers will be the same. Ministers recognised that each wedding isn't just about the venue and the economy generated from that venue. Each wedding involves around 25 suppliers. The guests tend to stay locally. These are really key to the local economies. This isn't just about the wedding industry, it's all about that local economy as well. So, while it was acknowledged that it is sensible and necessary to have certain restrictions in place, and clearly at the moment it is no weddings other than deathbed weddings, but while it is important to have these restrictions in place, we now need to start moving towards the scenario where we are living with coronavirus amongst us, and we need to adapt our weddings to suit that. And that means possibly adapted events, possibly seated events for now, finding ways to find an acceptable measure that the government and Public Health England will be happy to accept. It probably involves risk assessments by the venues. The venues know how to make themselves as safe as possible. They know what they can cope with from the point of view of social distancing. We also heard discussions about helping support the industry financially, possibly with something like the Film and TV Production Restart Scheme, which just underwrites deposits. It'll give couples that confidence to pay their deposits now and know that they are safe in the future. And what we heard was the importance of getting out of this situation where wedding businesses and couples are in limbo. That has to end. We need the ability for couples to be able to plan their weddings and for venues and businesses to know what they're allowed to do so that they can go forward. So Paul Scully, the minister, explained that he's heard lots of representations from lots of businesses. He has sat in numerous roundtable Zoom calls over the last few months, and he is keenly aware of the challenges. So he's already published advice on COVID-safe weddings, initially in England for 30, then 15, slightly different across the devolved nations. And he is aware that that is nowhere near enough for it to be a viable for businesses within the sector, and it's also nowhere near enough for it to be acceptable for couples. And couples are still having to make that really, really painful decision of whether they go ahead now with very limited numbers or they wait until a later time, but possibly risk people not being there that they would have wanted to be there. Minister Scully explained that pubs and restaurants have worked hard to become COVID safe, but he felt that weddings are particularly vulnerable to the spread of coronavirus. And he said that was particularly because of the extended periods of time people spend together, but also because it involves family and friends. And it's much more likely in that scenario that social distancing protocols will be broken. So just understanding what the concerns are there really, really helps our industry to actually do something about it now. And we were really pleased that he has already, in fact, today spoken to Richard Eagleton from Queen's Flowers and Sarah Haywood. You may have seen her earlier on this week on our Facebook Live. And bringing together people like that from the industry with Public Health England, making sure that there's a task force in place so that the businesses that are involved can find the solutions. We have the solutions there. We've been working on wedding safe industry standards, contact tracing, risk assessments, rapid testing. It's all there. All those discussions are being had. It's just a matter of making sure that government can help us put together a roadmap and we can get back in the spring. So really, really pleased to have such positive news tonight, and really hoping that it's the first step in a route forward for our industry to start to recover. Thank you.